so I'm sorry, Rep. Marszalkowski.
Yeah, I wasn't on the committee last year, but I would love to take a tour of the facility. And from my understanding, so it's $9,000 for a farmer could be, might as well be $1 million, might as well be $1 billion. To force them to go through with this with the hopes of getting a grant, that concerns me. Same as Representative Hull, don't want to do anything to put out, a business, put a business out of business, especially if they have not been cited by the DEM. And from my understanding, they've never been cited for any cruelty, anything like that. They run a tip-top shape. My major concern, though, is you said this isn't just about chickens. So this is about deals with pork producers and veal, right? And you said that 90% of those producers fall within this category, correct?
The vast majority, yes.
Yeah. So the cost, and you say that the cost wouldn't increase exponentially, right, if we mandate this. Would there just be a massive food shortage? So because Rhode Island is such a small state, would those 90% of the producers just not even bother shipping food to us? I'm going to try to create a commission dealing with like food insecurity. So that's my biggest thing. I don't want to make food harder for those in need to get.
Sure.
So do you believe that would occur? Because if 90% of the people that fall into this category, and we're the smallest state in the nation, would they just X us out and not ship to us?
That's a great question, and I don't think that will be the case at all. So basically, when you're talking about food insecurity, this bill will require that all eggs sold in Rhode Island come from cage-free systems, and as I mentioned, there are studies that show that cage-free eggs only cost on the order of 1 to 2 pennies per egg more to produce. So that would be passed on 1 to 2 pennies more per egg for a carton of 12 eggs. If it's 1.5, say, that's 18 cents. So that's majorly affordable for most.
But if he's producing, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out here, a million eggs, and the providers of the cage-free eggs are only producing 100,000 because they can't produce on the same quantity. So I can't follow the argument that the cost isn't going to increase, because if that you're going to all of a sudden have a gap in the market of 1 million or so eggs, it just doesn't follow.
Yeah, so I think that's assuming that the marketplace is static and that egg producers aren't moving to cage-free, which they definitely are, to try to keep up with this corporate progress that's being made. Rose Acres, which is the second largest egg producing facility in the country, has gone 100% cage-free, so it's a very large egg producer in Arizona. So they are making that shift, and it does take a little bit of time. That's why we have this generous phase-out time period. We also are wanting to make sure that all Rhode Island consumers have access to safe, affordable food. And right now, as it kind of stands, because cage-free eggs are more safe in terms of salmonella risk at least, it's almost a two-tiered food system that isn't fair for these low-income people to have to be forced to buy these less safe eggs. So we want everyone to have access to that safe, affordable food.
Okay. One last thing, too. And so you were also saying it's great to hear that McDonald's, Walmart is moving towards this. And you were saying that in order for, I'll just pick on the farmer in the room, in order for him to become viable, he'll have to shift to this. So why can't we just let the market forces handle it, while also still providing, him an opportunity to apply his trade and to, keep the eggs flowing?
Well, I think that's because of the cruelty to animals that is concerning for all of us. It also is important for us to protect the public health of Rhode Islanders. So it's those two things that make us want to hasten the move to cage-free. In addition to all of this corporate progress, it's important to bring laws on the books that will enforce that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions from Ms. Rep. Hall?
How many large producing egg farms do we have in Rhode
I think it's just Eli's Farm and probably the phonies.
Oh, that's my key.
I would like to I'd like to point out that most of Rhode Island's eggs are imported, which if all eggs sold in Rhode Island are required to be cage-free, right now about 10% of the market, I believe, is cage-free, and it's continuing to grow exponentially as they're seeing these deadlines looming with these giant companies that they want to sell to.
So, and I'm happy to defer this to maybe one of the vets down the road or something like that, but I noticed you guys changed some language that we've done on the gestation crates from, this was compromise language we came up with. It's on page 3, and I'm not sure whether you had anything to do with the drafting, so that's why I said I'm willing to defer, because I spent time talking to some, at least one pig farmer and some others about why we pick the time frame here, because essentially a pig starts to, a mother pig starts to sort of establish its spot where it wants to actually give birth, and it needs a certain, if you move the pig after that point in time, it actually gets really agitated, irritated, and actually is not, doesn't tolerate it very well, for lack of a better way to put it. And my understanding was 14 was sort of the bare minimum in terms of number of days, and as you see here, you know, and then the idea was to, the reason for the weaning, which you guys were actually accepting as well, was because these are very large animals. They're going to tend to lie down without a lot of regard for where their piglets are, and so that half of them wind up getting killed usually over the course, or can, I should say, get killed over the course of that period of time before they're weaned. And that was why we came up with that language that way. And I'm curious about why you guys have that other. Again, I'm happy to defer to some of those down the road.
Thank you. I'm not exactly sure why that was changed, and I'm open to discussing that.
Yeah, okay, so I can.
Thank you.